Well, I think we're on. Good morning. I'm Hot Rod Bob, and you've got gas this morning. Now, I think we're working, but I'm not quite sure because, well, the internet's acting up today here in Oxnard, California. How are you doing out there? Well, I don't see any comments, so there we go. Sam Browns is watching, so I guess it is working. Good morning, Sam. How are you doing? Hey, might get rained out this Saturday, so you may not be racing, but we're going to see what's happening. Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to GAAS, the Great American Auto Scene, your morning edition. Yesterday, I alluded to a little bit of information about springs. All right, so we'll do a little technical stuff. I was looking at a video and researching some things with Eaton about rear leaf springs. Now, there are different types of leaf springs. Now, I know they're all leaf-shaped, but the ends are what's different. When you have a squared-off flat edge, that means it's not tapered, it's not rounded, it's just flat, squared edge. You'll find those best on vehicles carrying loads, pickup trucks, vans, and things of that nature. You'll get a rough ride if you've got that set up on your car. Yes, Sam, I am working. Good. Glad to hear that. Neil Panks, how are you this morning as well? All right, so that's the truck type of leaf springs. Stiffer, harder ride. You want stiffer for racing in some cases, but maybe not that stiff. Now, the other type is where they diamond edge, or they cut the edges on an angle. It's still flat. There's no taper. There's no rounding of the edges. This is a little bit better. Will give you a little bit better ride, but will also carry a load. So a light-duty pickup truck or a very heavy car it might work on. Now, the ones for cars that work well, they move easily, they give you a decent ride, are the ones that have a tapered end where it is kind of, well, shaped so that it doesn't dig in at the edges and slides easily. Now, in street riding, I've noticed there's been a move towards button ends or putting Teflon between the springs. Now, the button end may work well for a softer ride. The leaf springs with the Teflon liners, not a good idea. And the reason being is you do want some friction in that rear spring. Without that friction, your car's just going to continue to bounce. There's nothing to help slow it down except the shock absorber. And that puts a heavy load on the shock absorber. So one of the things to think about would be the ends of the springs and how they're made. Hi, Nadal. How are you doing today? Keith Saunders is tuning in. Brian Passarelli. Good morning, sir. How are you today? All right, so we're getting ready for a great weekend. Hopefully, it's going to stay dry here in Southern California. They're projecting rain for this evening. And for those of you who normally go to the NHRA Motorsports Museum, sorry, someone tried to interrupt us. This year, the toy run is the first Wednesday of the month. However, impending rain, they've canceled the toy run and the Twilight Cruise for this Wednesday, which would be tomorrow, and it's postponed till next Wednesday, and hopefully we'll get some better weather for that. But that's the latest information I've gotten from the museum group, so that's what we're going to be doing. Good morning, Jeff. Wow, we got a whole bunch of people tuning in this morning. Thank you very much. And Nadal from Bahrain, thank you for tuning in. We do appreciate it. So a lot of great car stuff going on here. We just finished the toy run, the Motor for Toys this weekend. We talked about that. Well, all right, we talked a little technical about the springs and such for your car. Now, the other thing is coil springs. A lot of people heat their springs to lower the vehicle. Not a good idea. When you're heating the springs, you're taking out the spring. You're basically collapsing that spring. You're annealing the spring. You're making it softer. Now, doing that, yes, it will lower the car, but you're going to lose the majority of the spring strength. What you want to do is, if your spring is wrapped equally all the way around, is cut the length of the spring. Cut a leaf, not a leaf, but cut a coil off. What you need to do is, how low do you want your vehicle? Once you've taken the spring out, you measure the height of the spring. Measuring the height, figure a half a coil equals roughly an inch. Remember to cut it off with a cutoff wheel or a hacksaw if you're strong enough to keep on cutting. Don't use heat. Don't use a torch. You're going to damage the spring. Put it back in the car, drive it for a bit, let it settle. If it's still not low enough, repeat it. cutting off a small piece at a time. Remember, measure twice, cut once. Now, I've done this a number of times to vehicles I've had and been very successful. I have never heated a spring to lower it. And one of the reasons is I knew the spring would be collapsing. Not a good thing to do. Good morning, Martin. How are you doing? Roger Obcamp. So those are two things to do when you're looking at springs. Now you want to lower your tire and you've got leaf springs in the back. The easiest way is blocks. Putting a block in, 1, 2, 3, 4 inch, whatever you have to do. I put in as much as 4 inches worth of block in the back of a pickup truck I had once to get it down low. The other thing is re-arc the springs. Find a good spring shop. They'll know how to properly heat and reshape the main leaf. By reshaping the main leaf, the others will fall into place, but that will give you the right height you're looking for. I did that on my Plymouth. I went to a place called Hollywood Spring in Hollywood, California. Told them what I had, told them what I wanted. My Craig Stevens, Tony German, how are you today? And they created a new main leaf for me. Now, in my case, I had broken leaf springs. They had fatigued over time, and they needed to be replaced. One had already broken, one was fractured, hadn't broken all the way through. What we did was we took the springs to Hollywood Spring. They measured where the eyes were. They made a new main leaf spring. Lowered my car about 3-4 inches in the back. And if you've seen my Plymouth, you know how it sits. Now, drag racers, you've got a different technology you can use on your rear springs. And Mopar was probably the leader in doing this. And that's shifting your spring pack forward. One of the issues you have with a leaf spring car on launching in a drag strip is the main leaf wants to wrap or bend as you accelerate. That was the goal of, or actually that was the reason the traction bars came out. They kept the spring from rolling. They kept the center, they kept the axle in position and kept it taut. Now that's fine. That puts pressures in other areas of the chassis, and it puts pressure on the frame of the vehicle where you may not necessarily want it. After a while, it will fatigue. Now, slapper bars came in, and what that did was it just basically hit the spring perch in the front and acted like a traction bar, but with a little bit of movement, a little bit better, less stress on the chassis. But Mopar came up with a way to do it without having to add on traction bars. They basically took the spring pack, which is the other springs in your rear leaves, shifted them forward. By doing that, it made the front of the spring stiffer. They also clamped the individual leaves. This kept them from separating, because what ends up happening is on braking, the rear spring wants to go in the opposite direction, separating the leaves. You don't want that either, because then you get rear end wrap in the opposite direction, and that could cause failure to the driveline, actually pull the drive shaft out of the back of the transmission. So what you want to do is you want to clamp, use a special clamp to clamp the leaves in place so they don't separate on braking. Clamping the front, loosening the rear, or taking the clamps off the rear will also help you with acceleration. And if you look at the Mopar Super Stockers of the early days, they had no traction. It wasn't part of the rules for stock and super stock. So what they did is they came up with that spring pack. And if you look at Mopars, when they launch, they tend to lift just a little bit in the back, but they dig in and they go. And that's how they did it. So a little technical information from GAAS. Hope that helped you out. Scott Keogh, drag racer extraordinaire, is watching us right now, along with Sam Browns. Caltrax are the hot ticket right now. And, Calvert, he's been a racer for a long time, and he knows what he's doing, and Caltrax work. Now, I had a chance to talk to Mr. Calvert at the Fabulous Ford Show a few years ago when he had some featured vehicles. He still has his real deal Cobra Jets. Well, we talked about the benefit of the Caltrax system. And it doesn't work like a standard traction bar, and it works well. It also works in road racing. Yeah, guys going around corners are using Caltrax as well on Leaf Springs cars, and they're working quite well. So whatever he's done, and I haven't talked to him too much about the technical aspect of it. I've looked at them. They really look cool. They work. That is the main important part of it. Caltrax work. And that's another thing to look at. Hi, Clay Davies. How are you this morning? So a little spring technology launching, going around corners. It's all fun. Now, I'm more a go around corner type guy when I'm driving. When I'm working, it's drag racing. I love it. Always been around it. Everyone started with street racing. I don't care who you are. If you're a car guy, you started street racing. Now, it may not have been organized street racing, but you went light to light with a couple of guys, I'm sure. First street race, it's two people walking on a path, decided who could run quicker. Yeah, that was a street race. Wasn't a vehicle. You got to bet first guys with two horses that came side by side on a path, they wanted to see who had the quicker horse. Same thing with the buggies. You know what? Street racing's been around forever. It's always going to be around. Do we need to curtail some of it? Yeah. Do we need to make it safer? You bet. And that's why we've got some drag strips. Irwindale Drag Strip, we're going to be open on Thursday night at this point. No rain in the forecast for Thursday, so we hope we get there. And Sam, well, good. Yeah, Sam, road racers do stuff like that too. And that's where my background came from, Sam. I wasn't a drag racer in actuality, although I did support a lot of it. Nigel Taylor, good morning to you. Terry Wallace, the electric vehicle guy. How you doing today, Terry? And lithium. Not as polluting as coffee. Somehow, Terry, I'm a little skeptical of that one. Tony Franco, how are you today? Glad you're tuning in. And Corey Weaver's here as well. Yeah, you just don't tell your kids about your street racing heritage. Yeah, well, you know what? They figured it out themselves. They knew me better. All right, so you got GAAS, the Great American Auto Scene, brought to you by Beach Underwriting. And they are one of the people that help get me to Great Britain for the British Drag Racing Hall of Fame. And I'm going to be back for Santa Pod's Dragstalgia coming up in July. Hope you're going to be there. Well, those of you that are in the UK right now, or Bahrain, or any place else that can get there. US guys, I don't expect many of you to make the trek over to Great Britain in July. But, you know, this is a secret. Don't tell anyone. But we're leaving on July 3rd. It's going to be like a second honeymoon for my wife and I. We got married on July 2nd. I'm not telling her about that, though. See if she figures it out herself. All right, this is Hot Rod Bob. You've had GAAS, the morning edition. Brought to you by BAU, Beach Underwriting, and their racing team. Irwindale Speedway, Irwindale Drag Strip, and Valley Head Service. Yeah, Terry Wallace, Mulholland Drive. Yeah, spent a bunch of nights on Mulholland Drive. Was a great place. And yeah, there's more to street racing than just going in straight line, light to light. And you can read the stories about Mulholland Drive and some of the rumors, some of the legends, and so forth. I think one of the most exciting things I saw was, well, a couple of movie stars coming out and playing on Mulholland Drive back in the day. All right, guys, I got to get going. It's work day for me. I'm going to be doing stuff out in the shop. Hope you enjoy your day. Remember, keep it safe when you're driving. Rubber side down, shiny side up. We'll see you at Irwindale Drag Strip on Thursday night. And if the weather holds out, Saturday afternoon. In the morning, going to be at Moon Eyes for the Moon Eyes Open House and Christmas Party. You guys take care. Hi, Kenny Earl, Hal Plummer, Gino Furiani. Thank you for tuning in this morning. You've got GAAS, the Great American Auto Scene. You have a great day. Talk to you later.